Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zenaton, and today I'm going to be bringing you a video that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been meaning to do this for a long time, and I finally feel like I have enough data to do this. So, today I'm going to be attempting to create a tier list, a meta report, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it a meta report because that's what I'm doing. So what I'm going to be doing in this video, as this is the first video of hopefully many more, I'm going to go and give you first a simple tier list, tier 1, 2, and 3. The tier list is going to be in order of power. So even if a deck is not popular, if the deck is just powerful and it sees play, it'll be on the tier list. There's none on this list that is tier 0 or anything like that. But I will include tier 0 decks in the future if I feel there is a deck that reaches tier 0. In the tiers themselves, there's going to be no specific order. It's not going to be like what's first in tier 1 is the best of the tier 1 decks. What's last in tier 1 is the worst of the tier 1 decks. They're just going to be in some arbitrary order that I decide. So I hope this is going to be a good video. Let's get right into it. Before we get into the actual tier list, I also want to say real quick, I'm going to go through each and every single deck. I'll show a deck list. I'll give a quick tutorial, a quick run through of how to play the deck and how it works and why it's good and what it's good against. So with that said and done and explained, let's get into it. So here we have the tier list. In tier 1, we have Heimerdinger Vie, Sea Monsters, and Sejuani Plunder. If you've been playing the game recently, you've probably seen a lot of these decks. I've grouped Sejuani Plunder decks to include both Sejuani Misfortune decks and Sejuani Gangplank decks. Basically, if you're playing Sejuani and you're playing Pilfered Goods, you're in the Sejuani Plunder category. In tier 2, we have quite a few decks. I feel like a lot of decks will fall into this category. We got Demacia mid, Elusive Burn, which is pretty much the current iteration of Burn after the nerfs. Endure Spiders, Demacia Control, and Frostbite Control. All very good decks that can probably get you to Masters. And then in tier 3, we have the decks that are probably the weakest, but still relevant in the meta and can probably still bring you to Masters if you are a skilled pilot of the decks. We got Teemo Burn, Karma Ezreal, the classic, and we got just Vladimir decks in general, because I honestly think they're okay. Also, again, I just want to iterate this before I go into the actual dissection of each and every single deck. Again, this is just my personal opinion. You might have a different opinion. You might say something I have in tier 2 is probably not even worthy of tier 2 and it's probably tier 3, or something in tier 2 is tier 1, and so on and so forth. For example, I know some people would say that Endure Spiders is tier 1 and some people would say Sea Monsters is tier 2. Again, just my opinion, and that's it. So let's talk about the first deck. We're going to go into tier 1. The first deck in tier 1 we got is Heimerdinger Vie. As you can see, pretty stock standard list. You got Vi, you got Heimerdinger. The way this deck works, just basically look for some removal early on, survive in the early game, maybe play a Solitary Monk on 3 because that thing is just busted because it's a 3-mana 4/3 elusive. Shadow Assassin because that card is also busted. It's a 3-mana 2/2 elusive that draws a card. As for mulliganing, keep a 5-drop, either Heimerdinger or Vi. If they're both in your hand, you might even consider keeping both of them depending on the matchup. Now, of course, against an aggro deck, any kind of aggressive deck in general, you probably want to throw away Vi's and Heimerdingers unless the rest of your hand is great with like Chempunk Pickpockets and Mystic Shots and Beams and so on and so forth. So yeah, if you have played the game, you've probably seen this deck. Very, very good against pretty much the entire meta. Will of Ionia is just crazy good. Sea Monsters is popular, and this deck is really good against Sea Monsters because Will of Ionia is great against Sea Monsters, specifically Nautilus. So I feel like that's a good explanation of deck. This is how it's going to be for every single deck. I'll go through each deck. I'm not going to go into an in-depth deck tech I'll save that for other individual videos. So yeah. The deck is a little hard to play, I'd say. It does require thinking ahead and planning your turns out, I would say. But because of that, I feel like it rewards people if you are a good pilot. Now, granted, the games are slow, and they will take a long time to play because you're a control deck. Sure, you can get like a Heimerdinger on 5 and you can just belch out elusives. And that's probably the fastest way you can win, but it's still slow compared to something like Demacia Mid or Elusive Burn. Next up, we got Sea Monsters. Probably the most popular deck at the moment, if not at least the second most popular deck. People love their Sea Monsters. I love the Sea Monsters. They're the deck I used to get to Masters this season. Core of this deck is basically just survive in the early game, play a Nautilus when you're deep, and then by using Nautilus's ability to make the Sea Monsters cheaper, flood the board with a bunch of Sea Monsters, and just keep pushing in a bunch of damage with your big boys, and you win the game. You got the backup plan of Maokai, and the Maokai level up to mill your opponent. It's actually kind of relevant against certain decks like Demacia Control and I'd say like basically control decks in general that don't have a fast win con, like Heimerdinger Vi. Heimerdinger Vi has a fast win con. Also, Maokai is just there to help you get deep faster. As for mulliganing with this deck and how to play it, you know, it's a fairly easy deck to mulligan for. You look for the Dredgers, Thorny Toads, and Deadbloom Wanderers. Sometimes you'll even keep the Hunters if there's something you need to kill really early, like like a Zed. Sometimes you want Zed. The deck has a sort of bad matchup against elusives, like Elusive Burn, but you can tech the deck towards that. I know some people like to remove the third Maokai for a Thresh, add some more healing, like a Withering Whale. And if you do that, your Burn matchup and your Elusive matchup does get a lot better because Thresh against Elusives is great. You know, Challenger versus Elusives. More healing against Burn is also good. But then you're sacrificing your win rate against other decks like Heimerdinger Vi, which is already a bad matchup because, you know, you try to play Nautilus, play your Nautilus, and then they'll play like Will of Ionia and you pretty much just wasted your turn because you were probably planning to spam a bunch of Sea Monsters at your opponent. Still though, I would say this is a very, very powerful deck, and it's only being held in check by control lists, specifically Ionia control list, and specifically Will of Ionia. So if you're looking for something fun and you like spamming really big boys, this is the deck for you. Next up though, we got Sejuani Plunder. I have listed the Sejuani Plunder deck that plays Gangplank. I know some people prefer the version that plays Misfortune. That's a lot more aggressive than the one I have listed here. And either one is good. They're all great, in all honesty. You got your standard Pilfer, Plunder package, Steal package, Klepto package, Yoink package, whatever you want to call it. You know, you got your warning shots to activate the Plunder. You got your merchants. You got your Pilfered goods. That's all great. But the reason why it goes so well with Sejuani, and Gangplank as well, is their level up cons or conditions are tied to doing damage each and every single turn. So you might as well, you know, throw in a champion that benefits from pilfering or plundering, every single turn. As for the rest of the deck, pretty standard. You got like the Jagged Butchers and the Ruthless Raiders in the early game. They're going to be your early plunder, and just like Gangplank and Sejuani level up ticks in the early game. Hired Gun also just messes with your opponent and makes it harder for them to actually get on the board and fight against your board. Monkey Idol is great after they buffed it because it gives you an extra monkey. Now that it's a 0-5 instead of a 0-4. I believe that's the old Monkey Idol. I might be wrong on that. So that helps. That's really good because the monkeys can be chump blockers. They help level up Gangplank and Sejuani. They just plunder themselves. And of course, you got some powder in the form of Petty Officer, your old Grifter giving you more warning shots, and you got a Riptide Rex because that card is just great and it's one of the best Bilgewater cards. And since, you know, you're plundering so much, might as well play it, right? Anyway, though. Really fun deck. I've played it a lot. You will not make a lot of friends with this deck. People will hate you if you play this deck, because who enjoys it when their cards are stolen and then they are getting beat up with their own cards? If you have fun doing that and stealing your opponent's cards and beating them up with their own cards, this is the deck for you. Also, you can just punch them in the face with Sejuani Smile. Next up, though, let's head into Tier 2. Running into Tier 2, first deck up, we got Demacia Mid. There's a bunch of variants of Demacia Mid. I've listed a mono Demacia version here. I know some people like to go even more aggressive, put in Lucian and Senna. Other people like to put in Misfortune and Quinn as a scout package. I just wanted to list this one, nothing too complicated. Pretty much all decks that are Demacia mid decks are playing Bannerman because that card is still busted. This deck has gotten a lot of nerfs. Not a lot of nerfs, I'd say, but it's gotten nerfs, and the nerfs are relevant, like Grizzled Ranger, and he's not in the list, but Badger Bear have been nerfed. Badger Bear was previously a 4/4, now he's a 3/4. Ranger was a 4/1, now he's a 3/1. Ranger is still great. Badger Bear is honestly still great, but not from really mid-range. That's why there's a Protege here instead. And Fiora. I mean, this is, as we're playing this deck, it's a pretty standard mid-range list. If you've played mid-range before in other games or even in this game, you know, you want to do the same thing you always do. Just find a good curve, some kind of one drop on turn 1, something on 2, something on 3, and then your turn 4 play is either Bannerman or Rangers. Easy game, easy wins, easy climbing. Deck's not as good as it was before the nerfs, but it's still a really good choice if you want to climb and you want to climb relatively quickly, because you will win fast, because Sithriel will just close out games. The dream obviously is like turn 1 Fleet Feather Tracker, turn 2 War Chef / Bright Seal to kill something and have the Fleet Feather live. Turn 3 either Fiora or Laurent for more challengers, and then either Bannerman or Ranger, depending on whether you buff something or you want to just push in more damage with the Grizzled Ranger. And then of course there's a 1 of Unyielding Spirit, because that card, in my opinion, that card's not OP, but it does just automatically win some matchups because it's so hard to deal with for some regions, while other regions it's a joke, like Ionia. Will of Ionia, ha ha ha. And Bilgewater can kind of deal with it with Nautilus and Devourer. So yeah, if you just want to like just curve out player 1, 2, 3, 4, punch face, hit face, just attack with big boys, say go, Demacia mid I say is for you. Next up though, we have Elusive Burn. You thought the champion list decks were gone? Well, they're still here. Ever since Burn had the nerfs of Boom Crew Rookie and Legion Rearguard, for a while people were saying Burn is dead. We can't play Burn anymore. It's time to turn into a control meta. And then this deck showed up. And this deck's really good and really annoying. Now you might say, well, streamer, I've always heard that when you play a card game, don't try to like split your goals or split your attack plan too much. That's true. Sure, you're going for both the Burn plan and the Elusive plan here, but they're pretty much almost the same thing. And also, Elusives are just good anyway in the current meta too. Like I said, Sea Monsters kind of struggle against Elusives. Sure, they have some challengers and they have Abyssal Eye, but that's really slow. Also, compared to the old Elusive list, which ran Freljord over Noxus, sure you don't get Elixir of Iron. That kind of sucks, but you get Transfusion and you get Noxian Fervor. Transfusion's pretty much as good, and you have Twin Disciplines as well to try and do its best imitation of Elixir of Iron. But the reason I'd say you play Noxus is because Crimson Disciple plus Imperial Demolitionist is a great pair of cards. They work so well together. And Noxian Fervor is pretty good too. And of course the Burn package in general, along with Decimate, is really nice. And Transfusion's really, really good as a trick because you're playing Crimson Disciple. That's always a lot of damage, along with the Grenadier as well. Just really good. Want to just smork your opponents? This is probably the best Smorky deck you can play in the current meta, I would say. So, what if you don't like Burn? What if you want to gain a lot of life? Well, this probably isn't the deck for you. Not this version, at least, but there are versions of Endure Spiders that do play 3 Grasp and 3 Withering Wails. The problem is, Burn left for a time, at least the old style of Burn, not the elusive one, so all of the Endure Spider players started to play more aggressively, and they took out their healing and became more of a tempo deck, as you can see now, playing things like Callista. Elise was already played in the other one, but work with me here. Oh yeah, also playing things like Bark Beast, Ravenous Butcher, Curse Keeper, very aggressive, forcing your opponent to actually play to the board, and then by having to kill all your stuff, you're probably going to get a little bit of damage in because you have a nice aggressive and mid-rangey game plan, and then you just finish them off with your They Who Endure. It's fairly simple-ish deck to play, I'd say, in my opinion. Other lists also are running Wraith Callers, I'd say, and Mist Wraiths as well, because the deck, as you can see, it's not a purely Shadow Isles deck, but it's close enough, and you could probably just take out Avarosan Sentry for Mist Wraith or something else. You could definitely make it much, much more control-y. The version I play is not this version, but a much more control-y version without Bark Beast or Curse Keeper or Ravenous Butcher or any of that. I'd say this version's better than the one I play because the game plan that this deck is doing is a lot better than the game plan I'm trying to do with Mist Wraiths and Wraith Callers. So yeah, it's a fairly strong deck. I don't think it's too good in the current meta because, again, Will of Ionia. If you're trying to do a They Who Endure into Atrocity to try and win the game, and then your opponent plays Will of Ionia, you're very sad. But it's still a solid choice. If you like throwing really big boys at your opponent's face, this is the deck for you. Fairly simple to mulligan for. You're going to look for Elise and Aristocrats, maybe Bark Beast as well. And you're just going to play it out like a simple mid-rangey deck. Curve out in the mid-game. Get some chip damage in now and again. If you can't kill them just through the chip damage and all the mid-game plan and an Everglade Collector, you always got the They Who Endure in the back. So, good deck, solid. It'll get you wins, it'll get you to Masters if you play it. Next up, we got one of my favorite decks in the game. Probably my second favorite deck in the game. Or maybe my third, I don't know. We got Demacia Control. This deck is not good. This deck has fallen far. I still, in my honest opinion, do think it is tier 2. I could be argued with and convinced that it is honestly a tier 3 deck. It has had a few nerfs. This list I got from Strifecrow. It is a nice list. I really like it. I played it a lot on my stream. Doesn't play Eye of the Dragon. Instead, we play Mage Seeker Persuader. Just a big boy who can block, who has some late game value. Because for this list, you don't have too many. We only have 1 health potion, so it's a little more difficult to actually activate Eye of the Dragon. Also, since Badger Bear got nerfed and he's no longer a 4/4, cut a Badger Bear, put in some Investigators instead. The Detain is nice. Obviously, you still play 3 Shadow Assassins because that card is great. Same with Grizzled Ranger, even though he got nerfed and he's a 3/1, he's still great. And Radiant Guardian is, in my honest opinion, a really, really OP card. And I could see that card getting nerfed. But not now, because Demacia is, in my honest opinion, a little weak at the moment. Fairly simple to play deck, I'd say. You just play for the mid game, try and survive a bit using Badger Bears and Grizzled Rangers to just clog up the board. And other things like the Investigators and Persuaders, of course. Try and get a turn 5 Radiant Guardian active because that is really busted. And then you win the late game with your Lux Karma outvaluing things because Lux Karma combo with double Final Sparks, you're gonna just blast your opponent away. 2 Unyielding Spirits, really great if you can land an Unyielding Spirit on a Lux or a Karma or an active Radiant Guardian and your opponent can't remove that, you're probably gonna win the game. Now, if you're against like Heimerdinger Vi, good luck is all I can say. You're not gonna have a good time. Against sea monsters, they can deal with an Unyielding Spirit card, but it's easier to read because their only way of dealing with it is either Devourer or Nautilus Champ spell, and both of those are really easy to see coming. So hold up single combats and Will of Ionias, and obviously Concerted Strikes for that. Also, again, be careful against the sea monster matchup because this is one of the decks that actually is weak to a leveled up Maokai because the game actually runs long, and it'll run long enough for leveled up Maokai to actually mean a thing. Still though, I really like the deck. If you just want to blast people with Lux's Final Sparks and you want to play some Karma, it's a deck for you. Fairly easy to mulligan. Just find your 2s and 3s. Pretty much keep all your 3-drops. Maybe keep a single combat if you have a 3-drop already and there's something you want to kill early. Maybe even keep a Radiant Guardian in certain matchups too. It's all on you. Next up though, we got another deck that I love that I honestly think is really underrated right now. I know it's starting to pick up some traction, but I think it is still slightly underrated. We got Ashe Control, Frostbite Control, whatever you want to call this. It's more of a mid-range tempo deck than a control deck, but most people call it Frostbite Control, so I'm calling it Frostbite Control. This deck is not a new deck. It existed in the prior set before Bilgewater came out. Rising Tides is the name of the set. But at the moment, I think this deck is really good. Fights for the board, it has really strong minions, so it dominates the board because it's strong minions, the Glory Seeker to challenge stuff, and the Frostbite stuff like Brittle Steel and Harsh Winds really controls the board well. Leveled up Ashe is how you beat sea monsters. If you can level up Ashe fast enough, and you can get a huge hit in and just make a lot of stuff frostbitten so they can't block and just crack in for a bunch of damage. You got your Trifarian Assessor to just draw some more cards, keep the gas flowing, and it's a pretty fun deck to play. I am a big fan of this deck. It's one of my favorite decks to play. You got Avaros and Trapper as well now because he's been buffed. I know some people don't like him in this list. I like him in the list because 1 mana 5/5 is really nice. Sometimes I don't like him in the late game because it's like I don't even want a 1 mana 5/5 in the late game. I just want to dig for like Sejuani or Ashe or something. I still like it. I know some people are playing the 3/2 Challenger Wolf. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But I feel like if you want to play that guy, you need more Frostbite. You would want to play 3 Brittle Steels, 3 Harsh Winds, and maybe even some Flash Freezes too. And probably cut Reckonings for that guy. Anyway though, if you love just messing around and fighting for the board with things like Brittle Steels and combat tricks in general, this is a deck for you. Its biggest weakness, I would say, is Piltover and Zaun in general, because as you can see from the deck list, a lot of its units all have really high attack and kind of mediocre health. I'm looking at you, Trifarian, Glory Seeker, and Ashe. But still, it's really strong. Sejuani is a really strong card. She probably works better in the Bilgewater Plunder decks, but she's strong here with Ashe, and you know, if you want to play some Ashe, this is probably the best deck to play Ashe in. Probably the only deck to play Ashe in my honest opinion. Next up, let's move to Tier 3. First off, we got Teemo Burn. Before we had Elusive Burns, which went like half and half. It was like half Elusives, half Burn. We got just a classic burn list. Basically, this is the evolution of the old burn list after the nerfs. I honestly feel like the people still playing this list just haven't realized Elusive Burn exists, because I don't think this deck is as strong as Elusive Burn, but it does hit a little harder and faster than Elusive Burn. That is its one strength. The deck is pretty much just the same thing it has been. It's been for a while now before the nerf. Just removed Legion Rearguard for Teemo. Even kept Boom Crew Rookie because that guy is great. Everything else, as you can see, lots of burn as spells. The units are pretty much burn spells themselves in the form of like Saboteur and Rookie, Salesman, Grenadier, etc, etc. Fairly easy deck to play, I'd say. You know, you want to start with a curve of like 1, 2, and 3. hit your opponent in the face, you know, do your smorky smork stuff. And then, like, turn 4 and 5, you start throwing burn at the opponent's face, and you win that way. The reason why this deck now plays Teemo over Rearguard is, I think, mathematically, if you attack once with Teemo and get 5 mushrooms in your opponent's deck, mathematically, they will draw 2 usually. And since Teemo and Legion Rearguard, since he's been nerfed to a 3-1, now both died to the same pings, you know, Vile Feast, Withering Wail, etc., might as well play Teemo, because Teemo can snowball a little harder than our friend Legion Rearguard. Legion Rearguard just, he doesn't do anything. A 3-1 that can't block, that's just not good enough anymore. We have other better things than him. So yeah, if you're just wanting to make people mad by playing Burn and just not really playing for board and just going smorky smork smork, here's your deck. I still highly recommend Elusive Burn over this. This deck is a little bit faster, and wins are like around turn 5, turn 6-ish, while Elusive Burn, I'd say, wins around turn 7 or 8-ish. I think Elusive Burn is better, but this deck, again, its main benefit is it's a little faster. Also because it gets to run, like, more, like, get burn spells, like Get Excited and Mystic Shot and Sack Shot. Next up, though, we got a classic. We got Ezreal Karma. If you play this game, you know Ezreal Karma, especially if you've played in previous patches, because in previous patches, this deck was a tier 1 deck. Now it's, some people I would say would argue it's not even tier 3, and some people would argue it's not even on, it shouldn't be on a tier list because it's trash. I know in tournaments, though, people like this deck because of the way tournaments are and how they're handled and the way the formats are with whole banning things and so on and so forth. It's a pretty simple deck. You know, it's the same game plan it's always been. Stall, target some stuff down, level up Ezreal, flip Ezreal, maybe level up Karma too, spam a bunch of burst spells. They get doubled because of Karma, deal 20 in 1 turn. Obviously, you'd rather not have to deal 20 in 1 turn, so you want to get in a little bit of chump or chip damage through things like Chump Wump and Shadow Assassin and Ionia. But the game plan is still the same. You got a mulligan for removal as well. Maybe Eye of the Dragons and Shadow Assassins are good too. Deck's still fine. It'll probably get you to Masters if you try hard enough and you're a good enough pilot. I really don't recommend it. Just play Ezreal Karma, or sorry, not Ezreal Karma. Just play Heimerdinger Vie if you want to play Ionia. Also, I know some people are going to say, what about like Ezreal Twisted Fate, Ezreal this, Ezreal that? I didn't include them because I haven't seen them too much and I don't think they're honestly good enough to even be on the tier list. But I know some people are very high up on Ezreal Twisted Fate. I'm not. But yeah, if you just like combo, here's your deck. Pretty simple. Easy. Next up, and the last deck for the video, we got Vladimir decks. I chose this one because I think this is the best Vladimir deck out there, Vladimir Sejuani. The problem is, I feel like pretty much any other deck with Sejuani in it is better than this deck. A lot of people have been playing Vladimir since he got his buff. Now, leveled up Vladimir now drains instead of just deals 1. That is obviously good. But the problem is, Vladimir still feels like a win more card in my opinion. It's like, when you play Vladimir, you obviously want to have a wide board with him out. If you have a wide board, you're probably winning already. So yeah. But if you want to play Vladimir because you like the Blood Daddy, this deck is for you, I guess. It's, in my honest opinion, I'd say just play like Sejuani, I don't know, Sejuani Misfortune, Sejuani Gangplank, Sejuani Ashe, if you want to play Sejuani. If you just want to play Vladimir, this is the best Vladimir deck. Obviously, there are different variants out there. I like this one the best. I know some people like 3 Culling Strikes, no Hearth Guards, all 3 Hearth Guards. You can change the numbers around. I like the one of Crimson Curator for value because I'm a value-loving boy. But that's pretty much all I can say about the deck. It's a fairly easy deck to mulligan for. Obviously, keep the Omen Hawks because that card is great. And you would even love to go turn 1 Omen Hawk, turn 2 Omen Hawk. But yeah, The biggest issue I've had when I've played this deck and when I've played against it is it seems like it kind of dominates in the mid game, but it struggles to close out the late game and actually win the game, and it starts to just struggle to get that last like 5 points of damage in. Because that's when the opponents either start to just kill you with their reach as a burn player, or they start to stabilize with heals and removal. Still though, I think this deck is fine and can probably get you to Masters if you are a good pilot. I don't recommend it though, but if you want to play Vladimir, here's a Vladimir deck. Now, I'd say that is it. Yes. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me give my opinion on the meta. I believe it's a fairly accurate tier list about what is currently going on in the world of Runeterra. I hope you all enjoyed the video too. If you have any kind of like critique and any kind of ways I can improve the video, because I would love to do more videos like this in the future. I don't know if I'll do them every month. I'll do them at most at least every 2 months, but I'll probably do them at least once a month around the middle-ish of the month or so. Don't hold me to that though, please. But yeah, if you have any critiques as to how I can make this video and the future videos better, I would love to hear them. If you guys just enjoyed the video, I would love to get a like or a comment from you guys down below. Also, if you want to keep up with the Runeterra content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And also, of course, if you want to check out more of me, I stream Legends of Runeterra pretty much every single day over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Zenaton. And yeah, thank you again for watching today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all learned something. Good luck in climbing to Masters. If you're already in Masters, good luck doing whatever it is you want to do in the game. So yeah. Thank you all again once more for watching the video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and until I see you guys in the next video, bye!